but you can interrupt that pretty easy for Febby.
Is going to look to do so. Does interrupt it. Stand United instantly gets channeled. Buster shot comes backwards. Odo, no flash for the taunt.
Sacrifice the support.
All right, Wadid is waddling to safety. Hjarnan stops to get a couple autos in the minion wave.
He's farming. He's maximizing farm here.
Going to get taken down here. Kill will be secured by Odoamne very easily.
Trying to play no Tristana.
Wadid
no
is still
Tristana.
waddling, by the way. It's actually Hjarnan that was the sacrifice. Nope, Wadid is going down as well. Nuclear, unstoppable, 5-0-2. Deficio, do you have a moment to listen to a quick shot stat?
Is it about Cloud Drakes?
No, it is not. It is not. It's about kills. A little bit more exciting, I hope you'll find. This game at 15 minutes had the most kills at 15 minutes of all games this split.
Wow.
It was 16. H2K also were second for most kills for a team. They hold the record at securing 12 kills by 15 minutes in week 1 against Splyce.
I remember that series. That was a huge stomp in favor of H2K. A bit like this one we're seeing right now. See what happens in the jungle, Trevor. More kills might happen.
There's a rumble in the jungle, and it's Foxy that's getting jumped on. Good damage return, though, into Jankos and Shay. Foxy in a 1v4 finally goes down. Imagine if the Shockwave had been there to help. Betsy, the Shockwave misses because he's killed during the animation. Didn't even finish. And H2K, 8,000 gold up, 18 minutes are knocking on the inhibitor.
I just love the aggression, man. They're so quick right now, H2K, just forcing fights. Yes, of course, they're really far ahead, so they can do whatever they want, but we have seen teams be very far ahead and just play it very slow before. They're just constantly engaging.
Yeah, they are indeed. Wadid gets a devour onto Hjarnan that saves his life for a few seconds longer. Odo's taunt falls a little short as the exhaust comes out. Nuclear pops the rend while exhausted. That was suboptimal.
Oh, the Foxy Taxi.
Let's find out where the ride will go. Back to base, apparently.
It was a fake taxi.
It wasn't. He's H2K on the retreat. Wadid gets a devour as they're able to escape. Roccat.
Don't Google that one at home.
Man, it's such a difficult game. The devour just for the red buff.
Ah, see Hjarnan right there, you know. Sees the kill, doesn't get it. Che, Jankos, finds the Foxy, kills the Foxy as well because, well, his team can't really help him when he gets knocked back and then kicked back and then taunted. And yeah, once you knock back once, you're not really getting out of that one. Betsy, and this is smart, by him dying so quickly, no one sees the missed ulti.
It's like when you sit there and you just went team, team, team. Unfortunately, the team could not close that distance.
Oh, Che has been on fire this game as Alistar. I'm so happy Alistar is getting back in the meta. Of course, a large part is due to Kalista being so good with him, but again, also against these melee supports, it's rare you get completely stomped in lane against him.
Yeah. Well, Deficio, talking about how excited you are to see Alistar. Look at all the control wards for H2K in the inventory.
I know.
We're just over 20 minutes. You got those 2 items completed for a couple of H2K's carries. 2-man knockup from Che. Fate's Call buys some time. That's a 3-man taunt into a 2-man knockup into Roccat getting wiped. A triple kill for Odoamne.
All right, so what can they get with this? They got super minions in the mid lane. They're looking at some Nexus turrets right now. Hjarnan is still alive, but Febiven is going to make sure he's going to die very soon.
Well, Febiven trades, gets the kill with a spatula to the back of Hjarnan's head. H2K are taking down the Nexus turrets. The Foxy Tuxies back to the fountain as Febiven gets a double kill. H2K are knocking on the Nexus, and with the fastest win of the summer split, obliterate Roccat.
Yeah, I guess some people thought it would be a long day after the 3 games in the first series, but H2K made sure it was a very fast one. Impressive performance from H2K, keeping the aggression going, constantly engaging fights. Chase Alistar was great to watch. Odoamne showing up again. Like, of course you can praise every member. We have to remember Jankos died to the tower.
Oh yeah,
that is a key part to highlight about this game.
Remember, the First Blood King, he not only giveth First Bloods, he concedes his team's first kill, donating it to the tower. A true a true member of royalty, you know, like giving back to his fans and his followers.
Meanwhile, Rocket, Trevor, after you have like a 2-week break where you practice a little bit more, you get ready for the second half of the split, you really want to come in and make a statement in your first game back. Show that you are legit,
Yes.
you're chasing that playoff spot. Rocket made a statement, but sadly it was not a statement that actually made us believe in the playoffs.
No.
I actually look at this NIP Rocket match right now even more, and how much that might mean for Rocket and NIP regarding, you know, relegation.
It's going to be very, very interesting. Some focused faces on the side of H2K and Tificio, and a couple of, what do we call them, Trev stats in there. We heard the Cloud Drake one, none of them for Rocket yet. That still holds true.
Very important. That's why they're losing.
I had the mention of the most kills at 15 minutes in a game here in summer. And I just got confirmation from the stats team that not only was that the fastest win of the summer split, that was the fastest European LCS win of 2017. Obliteration.
What is the
word I
fast
used.
win ever? It
Oh,
must
the problem
be.
is there's too many questions. Like, I've seen games end at 18 and a half minutes.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It has to be like an 18-minute something. I remember that from North America. That an 18-minute game as well.
I also think we've had a 17 or 18-minute win at Worlds. Back 2-3 years ago, Korean squad against the Wildcard, but I need to double check that. But I mean, like H2K, just beautiful, beautiful play. Everything from mechanical outplays, map, vision. I mean, every tick box that would make proud Papa Fischio happy was ticked.
Yeah, but you know, it means that we're all going to buy into the H2K hype now.
We all, or you're going to buy.
We're all going to buy in as a caster team here. But, I mean, it's well-deserved when you have a performance like this. We want to see better early game from them after the last series. We definitely saw a better early game.
And the man that gave them that better early game, despite giving up the kill to the tower, is our player of the series. It is going to be Jankos, of course. That's Zach from game one, just hugely impactful, camping that mid lane.
Yep.
Getting Febiven super far ahead. Game two in his Lee Sin, despite the small mishap. Just again, like flawless.
Yeah, I mean, just before that, he got first blood against the Renekton with a very well-executed tower dive. So I think Jankos is one of the guys we're looking at to really improve their European early game.
Yes.
I say the European one, even though it's not every team that played and different teams have different issues, but we definitely want to see like more focus on strong lanes with a good jungler that can snowball.
And you know what I really like? All of the criticisms we had of the 3 EU squads at Rift Rivals, you actually talked about some of the weaknesses of those squads and how H2K demonstrated some answers to punishing that, like the vision game, the adaptation for the Raptor engage, etc.
Play around mid lane, these different things. That was very effective against a Fnatic or a Unicorns of Love.
And we'll see whether or not H2K can do it against some of the stronger opponents later in the split. For now, though, H2K, they picked up that win against Rocket. Let's see what their mid laner Febiven has to say after the win.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I'm joined by the mid laner. So, Febby, pretty clean games from you guys. You ended it up pretty quickly. What were you working on your week off? And don't say you're tan. I know you guys were at the tropical island.
Well, I think we just try to work on our early game a bit, like try to play around the winning lanes and not like play 3 losing lanes, which we did against. Wait, who did we lose to? I mean, we lost, but like the week before. Actually, no, we didn't. We played against Misfits.
You almost lost, to be fair.
So we should have lost. But after the series, we had to get our stuff together. Like having 3 losing lanes is not like really good unless you're playing against a team who doesn't know how to snowball the game. But yeah, I think we just worked on our early game a bit and just more aspects of the game, like in general. So. Well,
that's fair. So it's funny you mentioned getting ahead and trying to work on your laning phase as well, because that's what we saw a lot of the EU teams and Rift Rivals really struggling with, was getting ahead in lanes against the NA teams. Do you think that because that's what you guys have been working on, it's going to give you an edge over everyone else who seems to be struggling a bit?
I think every team is trying to get better in early game, better in lanes. I mean, you don't want to just be stuck and like lose your lanes, because if you lose your lanes, you're gonna lose against the best teams in the league, and also internationally. You can't play. I mean, it's just really hard to play against really good players and lose your lane and the really good teams, because they will just snowball, take the vision, play around their push, and just take your tower slowly. So, yeah, I think winning lane is the way to go.
Well, it certainly doesn't hurt. And as for your own individual performance, you know, we've been talking about you kind of having like a pretty big performance in the summer split so far, getting back to 2015 Febby, or maybe it's just a whole nother Febiven. And with the way the EU teams, especially at Rift Rivals, had kind of underperformed, do you think that this is kind of signaling like a shakeup in the way the EU mids are sort of ranked out now?
Wait, what do you mean?
Let me clarify a little bit. I mean, like, everyone's been talking about, like, oh, where they put all their mid laners, right? You're close to the top, but, like, people are always talking about Caps, and obviously Perkz has been underperforming. Where do you think you rank up at the moment?
I mean, I think if I played at Rift Rivals, I would have probably been. I'm pretty sure I would have been the best performing mid at the tournament if I was to participate. I just think I'm playing more consistent than all of the players, all the mid laners in the EU right now. So, I mean, I would rank myself pretty high. I mean, I don't think there's a best because I don't believe that there's. I mean, there's a best, obviously. Like, you can say that someone is the best, but I think that you can always get better. So, I think I'm at the top for sure, and I really want to play internationally again because I always manage to do well. And it sucks really, really much to see EU fall like at Rift Rivals because, I mean, EU has been good, you know, at Worlds 2015, 2016. So, yeah.
Well, you're looking to conquer international, but you got to be able to do it at home. You've got G2 next week. You feel like you're going to have any problems against those guys?
I mean, Perkz is a pretty good player, so I think it's going to be hard mid, but I think it will go even, and we will see which better teams wins.
All right, well, I'm looking forward to seeing it. Thanks again for joining me, Feb, and congrats on your 2-0.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to go ahead and send it over to the analysts to close out the day, so take it away.
Thank you very much, Pyra. Oh, I love it. If I've been just saying I would have been the best mid at the tournament. Well, we have nothing to refute the claim, but Caps was the last person that put himself on top of a list, and we know what happened at Rift Rivals.
But Caps wasn't making a list for Caps versus whoever's playing mid lane plus a jungler, and that's what they really underestimated.
Well, yeah, that is a good point. And Febiven did play really well in this series, and as you mentioned, they just had their jungle mid synergy absolutely on point, and that's what we wanted to see. You were talking a lot, or we were thinking. We're thinking about everything in context of Rift Rivals, let's be honest, because EU had such a hard time there. So we want to see from our top teams some takeaways. Is that what the Jankos moves and the mid-jungle priority signal to you?
Yeah, I think so. That's what H2K seemed to take from the EU versus NA Rift Rivals, was using Jankos and investing in Jankos in the early game as well. Not just having him around the lane, but actively looking to set up plays for Jankos. And it worked out very well in both games. The Zag, the Lee Sin. The Lee Sin game is a little bit more around topside, which is fine. That still can work because they put Faxi behind, and inevitably it ended up getting the win here with H2K getting such a significant lead over Roccat.
That did Pyra there asked Febiven, you know, what about the winning lanes and putting more into that? And I guess obviously you always want to win your lane. I guess the problem comes, or the issue comes, if you go toe-to-toe, if you go with teams that are just as good as you in lanes and you go even. What should you do then? Because that should be the idea when you play other top teams, and it doesn't really come down to smashing your lane and winning the game because of it.
That's a difficult one when you look at, especially an H2K versus a Roccat. If everybody expects H2K to win that series, right? So why not just play early game and not necessarily have to play for the scaling? I think the discussion about G2 versus H2K is where we might see them draft away from these early lanes that they ended up winning, but they played the Corki in game 2 for H2K. It still looked fine. They didn't need to play early game all the time against the Roccat team. This was a significantly easier matchup for them.
Yeah, we also saw it devolve into a little bit of skirmishes, a lot of skirmishes here and there across the map, maybe getting a bit too hyped themselves, but for H2K, fantastic win on the board. For Roccat, though, same goes for them. They did have a week off. They had a wake-up call versus Vitality 0-2 in week 5 after their upsets last split and almost making it to those playoffs. We did want to see some progress, and you can't help but be a bit disappointed. You never know how strong H2K actually is and if they repeat this versus any other team, but you want to see some more counterplay.
The one thing we wanted from Roccat that I think we did get a little of was less reliance on individual picks. Not picking the Gnar when it was available in game 2, looking at other options. Wadid with the Alistar when he got targeted out so heavily. I think it is growth out of Roccat, but it's not expected that that growth is going to beat H2K overnight, really. And I think Roccat is still on a path to secure 4th spot, but they've obviously got contenders nipping on their heels.
I don't know what I think, you know, is worse, trying to go for those different picks if the ones that you win with are open. I feel like you should just try and make it work with that.
To some extent. I think that's a really awkward one because I think in this game it's actually fine to try stuff out. Maybe expand the champion pool of your team compositions, because when you do face a team that you are expected to beat, that's when you need that depth of champion pool, because if you can only play 3 champions and they get banned out, well, suddenly it's not quite such a favored game in your favor.
We'll see what Roccat comes up with in the next couple of weeks. They are at the bottom of the table vying for a playoff spot, but there are some other contenders. Vitality earlier today, they managed to get to win over Ninjas in Pajamas. A strong performance in the third game. They did lose that second game, but there's a bit of hype around Vitality.
There's hype. They managed to get these Ash arrows working. Steelbags flashing forward in team fights. Everything looked great for Vitality. This was game one, which even looked good in their favor. Deficio was singing their praises after game one. Everything looked great. Quite a quick win.
Quick dab.
It looked like Vitality had regained it, but Ninjas in Pajamas utilizing a very similar comp to what Vitality won with 2 weeks ago. The Tahm Kench, the Ashe, the Shen, looking quite good in their own right. But game 3, you already talked about it. Vitality crushing through Nukeduck, picking up a pentakill, really unlocked by Joko and the rest of Vitality in this game. The skirmishing potential out of this lineup from Vitality just destroyed the Ninjas in Pajamas this game.
And the bounce back after that loss in game 2 is admirable from Vitality, a team. As said, we're starting to get a bit of hype. I also just talked to them a bit before the show, and they said, well, you know, these are the crucial matches that we need to win, and we're vying for that playoff spot. And if you look at the standings, they are in a better position. Obviously, H2K picking up another bunch of points, and Vitality there at 3 and 4 now, so they're creeping closer. And if we look at what we've seen today from Roccat and the Ninjas in Pajamas, that is a very valuable spot, and those are very valuable points.
Exactly. Ninjas in Pajamas on the other side being without a series win, of course, puts them in such a horrible spot because they already played Mysterious Monkeys. Now they've already played Vitality and didn't pick up a win. They have to go back into their own group play and now pick up wins off Roccat or G2, which is a very difficult feat.
And unfortunately for Vitality, that group is pretty stacked when it comes to 1, 2, and 3. So maybe they would have wanted to be on the other side.
But I think Vitality might be able to contend with Splyce. Depending on how Splyce play tomorrow, if Vitality can pull out those kind of compositions and play as clean as they did in games 1 and 3, that might be the series that jumps them up in the standings.
Well, we'll see if that happens the whole day. Obviously, we cannot... Rift Rivals is always going to be on our mind, and I think it's going to be a bit of a Rift Rivals trauma, but we need to take some things away from it. So I was wondering if there's anything you saw today that you see connected to what we saw at Rift Rivals, some good takeaways, some bad takeaways.
So we've talked a lot about the mid lane and jungle synergy already. I think it's hard to understate how important that was at Rift Rivals and in these first few series coming back until teams are starting to find their own playstyle. Once again, high jungle proximity going towards the mid lane. Febiven looking great on both the early game and the scaling mid laner when playing up against Scaler himself. So that's one thing that we take away. I'm actually quite excited about the bottom lane changes that we've seen from Rift Rivals, which is not just about the EU and NA Rift Rivals where we saw the rise of Braum, but you look over at the LCK, LPL, LMS Rift Rivals, we were seeing Kalista Rakan. Well, Rakan's been banned out because of how strong he is. Now we get the Alistar. Wadid and H2K bringing it out in both games. That's a really exciting meta when you start getting these engaged champions in the bottom lane that we're seeing taken from other metas around the world from Rift Rivals.
Yeah, definitely so. Top lane, why no Kled? Kled was so strong at Rift Rivals.
Yes, he was so strong, but NA, there's, you know, they play a lot of Kled in the solo queue compared to what we do. We have like Wonder, who is a Kled player that I'm expecting tomorrow to see Splyce bring out. It's a champion that isn't as easy as just picking up Kled and going, oh, I can win every single game, because his trading potential around his passive, around Skarl, and the way you become untargetable kind of is difficult to balance in lane. And a champion like Renekton is so much more easy to play out in a laning phase. And if you mismanage a trade, Renekton kills you, takes over the game.
Well, I think this is also a key takeaway, because we're always thinking about what do we see, what can work for our teams. But it is important for our top teams also, I think, not to over-index on that and not to think about that too much, because you can't just plug and play any champion. You can't just plug and play any style. And at the end of the day, a team like TSM stole a bunch of styles and was just clearly by far and away the best team at Rift Rivals. You can't just expect to get up to that level.
Yeah, TSM looked like the only team that could adapt between different styles readily. And that's a big testament that they can already do that going towards the World Championships. They're a team that I think is actually going to do well this year for North America.
Is that the stress curse coming up
yeah,
early?
Probably. Sorry, TSM fans.
Yeah, but it's also important to differentiate between what you can take, what you want to work on, and also to think that EU is bad. But Unicorns of Love didn't succeed for different reasons than G2 didn't succeed, and they didn't succeed for different reasons that Fnatic didn't succeed. So it is kind of an intricate one to break down.
And going up into tomorrow's matchup, Unicorns versus Misfits, I took a long time talking with Unicorns after Rift Rivals. A lot of the players, the staff, one thing that people aren't really sure of, but shouldn't be counted as an excuse, is Unicorns changed their internal communication over the last 2 weeks, which is one of the reasons why it's shifted towards Exile in the mid lane.
They used to always have Democracy, right?
Right, now Exile is actually a larger, louder voice in the team, but that, of course, has its downfall. While he's trying to manage everybody around the Rift, of course, he's more vulnerable to not paying attention to his own lane. It's not an excuse, and it shouldn't be taken as one, but Unicorns, they're changing things behind the scenes to work on their playstyle, and maybe that might be responsible for a dip now that could see them on an upswing later into the split.
I'm going to trust your word for it, but I have to say a bit flabbergasted because it isn't like, yeah, Exile has been trending downwards, but not just in the last 2 weeks. He has fundamental things to work on. From my perspective, if you then put all the responsibility or more responsibility on, that seems like counterproductive, but I'm not a coach for that reason exactly.
And I think, of course, there's a lot of conjecture on this and how successful it'd actually be. The ironic thing is, as Unicorns seem to be trending towards one voice more than Democracy, every other team over the last year have gone away from one shot call and now acting on multiple voices. So that's one of those weird little changes the Unicorns are making right now. I can't tell you whether it'll be successful. We're going to have to watch their games. I think Misfits is a tough test because Maxlow's going to spend his time ganking for Power of Evil in the middle lane. I don't think there's any real argument against that in tomorrow's series.
That's true. Let's take a look at the schedule, and I do hope we get to speak to someone on the Unicorns of Love because interesting revelations about the shot calling. But anyway, indeed, very interesting matchup. Obviously, Misfits, they had that comeback loss that H2K just ran over them when they were 8,000 gold ahead. They will want to, well, show that they won't let that happen again. And then G2 Esports versus Splyce, so interesting because Splyce, you think, should be a team that now has to take this chance of G2 being weakened and, well, prove that they are a top team.
And I think they're one of the teams that has the tools to play multiple styles. We've seen the likes of the Kled, the 131 out of Splyce. We also, in the last 2 weeks, saw them team fighting more effectively. And if Cubby's player picture is anything of a spoiler, that Ashe might be coming out of the bottom lane for
really
Splyce.
Happy.
Yeah, Deficio will love it. Danish and Ashe, everything will be going in Splyce's favor tomorrow.
We will see. In any case, very interesting matchups there. It's time for us to log off for the night. Thank you very much for watching. And we will be back here tomorrow for an action-filled day in the EULCS. See you then.
Know that Joko is here though.
Both junglers on, they look for Cabochard. There's a stun up, and in comes Joko. Can they finish the job? But it's first blood. Prophet goes down. Well, Nukeduck's had to flash into the pit, and Shook comes out of nowhere. They found a pick onto the Vitality mid laner. And all of a sudden, Prophet face checks into Nukeduck, and EQ face checks into the rest of the team. He pulls himself into the arrow and steal back. Vitality smell the blood, and they're going all in. Prophet, that's a big croc, but Vitality are bigger. But the Nexus is laid bare, and 35 minutes in, Vitality close out game one. Looks like this fight is getting a little hectic here as Spraddle swallows up his ADC, and Prophet is left by himself. Nagne coming in a little bit late for round number 2.
Can enter, I think.
Nice. Nice, bro.
You step it. Okay, nice.
NIP will take down the Nexus towers, grab themselves a Nexus, equalize the series. Go Ninjas, go Ninjas, go!
Oh, Prophet, he's skilled W. He doesn't even have his E.
Nukeduck!
Oh, no.
Oh, phosphorus bomb!
Look, Jarvan. Nice. Keep it up, guys. Keep it up. Well played.
Alright, guys. Nice, good job, guys. Kill them.
Penta. Penta, guys.
Take it, steal it.
And he does it! A pentakill for Nukeduck! GG Vitality!
H2K and Roccat load up for game number 1.
Oh, Betsy, he needs that blast
What
code.
a good stun. Flash forward, blast code. This is it! Betsy, you can't do that! Unleash power comes out. Fate's Call comes out from Hyonin as well. Buys a couple extra seconds. Well, did force to flash over the wall, but you can't escape the Cataclysm as the Nexus goes down. H2K dominate game 1.
He gets the kill. Minions are hitting him. He walks. Oh, the last minion died. No! No!
I'm trolling. What did I do? Okay, it's fine. It's fine. Don't worry.
Go here.
As Feathervin gets a double kill, H2K are knocking on the Nexus, and with the fastest win of the summer split, obliterate Roccat.